This is perhaps my first piece of public art, and it was kind of an accidental piece of public art. I was asked by a museum in Washington, D.C., the Hirshhorn Museum, to create a drawing for their campaign, Art Surrounds Us, and this is the drawing that I came up with. And I didn't really know what happened to the drawing, but a friend of mine sent me this photo, and this was how it was displayed. And I heard it was also displayed on bus banners and so forth. And I do this style of drawing, and I actually also really realized that I like this work in public because the audience really shifts from galleries and museums, and it's more the passerby or the accidental audience versus the dedicated art geek that encounters your work. This is more deliberate public art. This was for Madison Square Park in New York, and they have a program where they commission one film artist to do a film that's on display for 6 weeks each year. And I thought it's kind of a difficult task because who wants to watch TV in a park, you know, and what would you want to see if you're sitting in a park? And I made this film called The City of Nature, and I'm going to show you a short snippet from it. So yeah, it's these are all 3-4 second scenes from fiction films where all you see is nature. And it was this. It took me an entire year to make this film, and I asked all my friends, what film should I watch, and where can I extract some nature? This is a really small sculpture. It's only this big. And I did it for also a group show in New York called Democracy in the Age of Branding, and that was in the run-up to the first Obama election. There was this high anxiety because everybody was afraid that John McCain might be the next president, and made this little sculpture. It's really simple. It's just people raising their hands. And I didn't, it was kind of looking at democracy from afar. And then a couple years later, this thing happened, which I'm sure you remember, the Occupy movement, which swept across the United States. And hand vote became kind of a very big symbolic gesture in that movement because all the decisions were made as hand votes. And in Vancouver, in Canada, the Occupy movement surrounded the Vancouver Art Gallery. And a curator from the Vancouver Art Gallery came to my studio and asked if they could reproduce hand vote outside the museum as a kind of response to Occupy. And I said, let's do it. And then we rebuilt the sculpture at a really monumental scale. And it was really fun. It was like working on an architecture project or something. And this is how it looked. And I feel it really changed the meaning of the sculpture. It started out as a joke about democracy, and then it became this monument for voting or something like that. But I just took it like that. Here's another picture. And here's a picture of Bill Bergson in front of the sculpture that Connie sent me. Another public art project was at Yerba Buena, and that was a year or two later. And Yerba Buena approached me right around the time when Hurricane Sandy devastated the East Coast. And a really spontaneous response to the assignment was to recreate the amusement park that had just been devastated by the Hurricane Sandy. And then I just rebuilt it in the sculpture court. And it was kind of interesting that there was always these parallel things happening. So the moment I finished the sculpture, the actual park actually reopened too. And then this freak fire burned the park down again. And so I found it kind of interesting how reality changed the reading of the sculpture. And this is how it looks disassembled. Do I still have time? Wow. Okay, I'm going to show another little video called Beatles über California. Just a few seconds.
Kind of power will soon go away. I will be Führer one day. I will command all of you. Your kids will meditate too. Your kids will meditate too. California, over us. California, over us.
So this was also not a public art project. It was for a show honoring the work of Bruce Conner at SF MoMA.
1 minute.
And but then it was also shown in public. It was first shown on a building facade in Miami. And this is, I loved this photo that someone sent me. It was also shown in Moscow, right around the Pussy Riot time. And I thought it was a nice coincidence. And I'm gonna finish with a project that I'm working on right now. And I just was selected as one of the artists to create an artwork for the gate rooms at SFO. And I love the Beatles, and so I'm going to do another Beatles project. And this time the Beatles coming out of the airplane. I just couldn't think of another image that would resonate with the airport. But I thought there was a problem that there was no color, and I don't think you can do black and white art in a space like SFO. So I'm going to mesh it up with Pete Mondrian painting, and the piece will be called Mondrian Meets the Beatles. And I can barely see it, but it's going to look somewhat like that.